loose financial conditions distort what true supply and demand should be. And excess money can come from the government. But in this case, excess government money went from the government into the hands of individuals who then participated in the public markets, and they distorted what it all looked like. And so there was a lot of purchasing activity that was propped up by what seemed like an endless supply of free money. And so now that money is getting taken out, we don't yet know what the real equilibrium economic growth rate should be, because you have to remember, we have not seen an era without federally introduced spending, without federally introduced forms of quantitative easing since the great financial crisis. So we have been propping up our economy for 14 years straight now. So we have distorted the prices of bonds and fixed income. We've distorted the prices of equities. We've created an asset bubble in crypto out of nowhere. And now we have to do the hard work of figuring out what the real supply demand is in the economy.
Is it going to take 6 quarters to wash this out, or longer, I guess?
No, longer, because what David said is now making the problem even worse. So because Powell was catering to whatever pressure he's been getting, and he must be getting some severe pressure from the White House, those were really dovish comments. But what is the problem when he is dovish? Well, the practical reality is a couple of things. Number one is typically the yields of long-dated bonds go down, okay? That essentially tells everybody else to reprice assets. What does that practically do? It makes the cost of borrowing roughly cheaper, okay? It makes the price of equities, particularly ones that are far out on the risk spectrum, so specifically let's focus on NASDAQ and crypto, right? Tech stocks, biotech stocks, and crypto stocks go up much more aggressively. So what has Powell effectively done? He has synthetically created a form of easing again, right? Like his job at the Federal Reserve, if you think about the money supply as a pipe, it's to shrink the pipe to close off demand to get things in equilibrium. So even though he's doing this, by the language that he's doing, he's effectively allowing market participants to basically guess that the worst is over and now we're going to start to expand the pipe again. And so they go to the end state. So what he effectively did in one speech is basically put a pin at the end of this year and is telling the markets, I'm mostly going to be done. And if anything, I'm probably going to be cutting in the back half of 23. Go on your merry way. It's now pushing the problem out another 8 quarters. Like, we need to stop this nonsense. He needs to be definitive, and he needs to fundamentally break the back of inflation so that you find out what the true demand is in the economy. We've never in the history of America ever had CPI print above 4.5% or 5% without inflation being brought down by having Fed funds not also be greater than 4.5% or 5%. So at some point, inflation will turn over and we'll print 6 and 7%, but that's still not below 4.5% or 5%. And right now, our target Fed funds rate is between 2.25 and 2.5%. So we could still be only 50% of the way there if inflation remains at 4 to 5%. And this is what I think market participants don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that there has to be a meaningful form of tightening. And politicians don't want to hear that. The White House for sure doesn't want to hear it. The problem is that if Powell caters to too much of that feedback, he's not going to do what he's supposed to do and why he's put in that job. I do think that if all of these geniuses could have actually just taken a simple econ and stats 101 class and explained how year-over-year measurements work to the American people, I think they're smart enough to understand it. We didn't have to go down this convoluted route. We could have just explained, we put a lot of excess money in the economy. We don't yet know what the full effect of that is. We need to let that wash through. In the meantime, you're going to see some crazy numbers from time to time, and we just have to be patient.